Good morning, Reptilians. Welcome back to my channel. So first of all, before we get started, Handsome Jack is right here now. This is where Nax was. Nax is actually up here now because my small baby put a cookie in his fish tank. So he has been moved into the bedroom with the other animals. So if you see that, that is why. But anyways, this week we are talking about things that I wish that I knew before I got Zaz here. As many of you know, Zaz was my first pet lizard ever, and what that means is that at the time, I didn't know how to properly research things for her. I thought that I was doing a little bit of research, but I skipped so many things. And that's one of the huge reasons that I make these videos for you guys, in hopes that I can help you find a lot of that information that I overlooked. So this video is going to be kind of a tips for people who are just now looking into getting their bearded dragon, but more so it's just going to be 10 things that I wish I knew before I got Zaz here. This video is sponsored by the DubiaDude, so make sure to stay until the end of the video to find out how you can save 10% off of your entire order at thedubiadude.com. Let's get into it. The first one that I learned very quickly is that baby bearded dragons eat a lot of bugs. I know I say this in a lot of videos, but it's because it's true and it hit me hard. I really wish that I understood just how many they ate before I got her. So when I got Zaz, she would eat about 80 to 100 crickets a day. And then as I started researching online, I found out very quickly that that is 100% normal for them because they need all that protein to help them grow, because as babies they are growing very rapidly. If I had known this going into getting her, I would have immediately started ordering crickets in bulk instead of having to run to Petco or PetSmart to buy crickets multiple times a week, and that would have saved me so much money. And if I had known this going into it, if I had been prepared for this going into it, I would have been more prepared in having a larger container for her bugs to stay in. I was sold a little cricket keeper, the ones with the little black things that shove in that the crickets go in. I was sold that and told that that was going to be sufficient, and for a baby bearded dragon, it most certainly is not. Crickets die very fast, and without an adequate amount of space for them to run around, they die even faster. So that again would have saved me so much money in the beginning if I had realized how many she ate, and I could have made the proper home preparation for those feeder insects. The next thing is that a lot of babies don't like salads. Again, when you are initially researching bearded dragons, you are told over and over and over again that they need about 80% bugs and 20% salads. And it's made to seem like it's super easy to do. You just give it to them. That's not always the case. Baby bearded dragons can be very picky and can definitely not want to eat those salads. Zaz at first was one of those. It would take a little coaxing and multiple tricks to try to get her to eat it, and eventually it was a lot of playing around and seeing what food she liked in order to get her to eat what she was supposed to be eating. I don't want to get into all of the things that you can do to try to help your bearded dragon eat salads, but me and Lizard Guru did do a video all about that, so I will leave that here. If you are struggling to get your bearded dragon to eat salads, there are a lot of really helpful tips in that video, so maybe that'll help you out. But there are a few people that get super lucky with their baby bearded dragons and they will just destroy anything. So if you're one of those people, congratulations. I definitely envy the easy time that you are having with your baby. Speaking of not eating those salads, I wish I knew that some bearded dragons are just picky. When I was first doing my initial research on bearded dragons, I saw over and over again that bearded dragons were basically little food dumpsters. They would eat anything, and that just wasn't the case with her. Zaz was afraid of hornworms when I first got her. Hornworms are supposed to be the absolute favorite of bearded dragons. You're supposed to love them so much. She did that for a lot of different bugs, and definitely definitely greenery, salads. She is very picky and likes to stick to what she knows when it comes to eating. And in addition to that, sometimes they get picky in terms of they just flat out get bored with food. So unlike Zaz here, who likes to eat the same thing over and over, a lot of bearded dragons will get bored of eating just crickets over and over, or just collard greens over and over, and they just will stop eating just because they want something different. It's just good to be prepared for that in advance so you can make sure you have a lot of different foods for them. Proper lighting can be expensive. So a lot of times, especially if you're getting your bearded dragon from chain pet stores, you are told that 2 dome lights are sufficient, a coil UV light and a heat bulb. That is what I was sold for her when I first got her. However, that just isn't the case. They need UV tube lighting, preferably Arcadia and Reptiles are the really big ones that a lot of people use because they work wonderfully, but those things get expensive. I did end up having to replace the dome for my heat bulb with a different dome with a dimmer switch on it because I very quickly realized that if it was hotter one day than it was the next, then that heat bulb was going to get hotter. It was going to suddenly become too hot for her to bask under, or too cold for her to properly digest her food. So I had to replace that dome with a dimmer switch dome so that I could make sure that the temperature was maintained correctly and not have to constantly switch out bulbs. I think I switched bulbs 3 or 4 times in the beginning, just trying to get the correct wattage, when all I needed to do was buy a high wattage with a dimmer switch, and it covered everything. I obviously had to replace the coil UV light and that dome with the proper lighting, so that was wasted money that I then had to correct later. Getting the proper fixture for that tube lighting and the light easily can cost you over $75, and then plus that light has to be replaced every 6 months. Same with the heat bulbs. Heat bulbs go out, so you will have to replace it every single time it goes out. And lighting is a huge one that wouldn't have been a problem had I done the research beforehand, as opposed to just solely relying on what the pet store employee told me. Crickets are not the only feeders, and they're not the best feeders. I didn't know about dubia roaches until Zaz was almost an adult. I really wish I had known about them beforehand because you guys know I detest crickets. I don't like them at all. They stink and they die and they waste money. They cause parasites. There's so many bad things about them that was fixed when I started using dubia roaches. I know DubiaDude is a sponsor on my channel and they are a sponsor of this video, but that isn't swaying my opinion towards dubia roaches. I used dubia roaches before the DubiaDude. I know dubia roaches are illegal in some countries and states. If that is the case, crickets are fine. I just personally wish that I knew about dubia roaches for Zaz here at the beginning, because it would have made my personal experiences with her a lot better. The next one is super gross, but bearded dragon poop is the actual worst. It's so bad. It stinks up an entire room, and to make matters worse, a lot of times after they poop, they will run through it and smear it all over the entirety of the tank, and it's disgusting. If your bearded dragon has parasites, it makes the poop smell that much worse, and it's runny, and it smears even more, and it's the most disgusting thing. And afterwards, your bearded dragon will most likely need a bath because it will be all over their body, and then they will run through their salads, and then they will eat those salads and get parasites. It is the least fun thing to deal with out of all the animals in my house. It's super gross, and I wish that I knew that. Also, bearded dragons don't generally poop every day. Another thing I wish I had known, because at first I would get really worried when she would only poop once a week or once every other week, but apparently that is completely normal. They just have strange bathroom habits, and I wish I knew about those going into all of this. reptiles have to go to the vet sometimes. This is another one that would have very easily been alleviated had I properly researched her before getting her. Why research is so important. I always heard that reptiles were super easy pets. They were so much easier than dogs and cats. You just set them up and they were good to go. That is not always the case, especially with bearded dragons who are parasite prone. Your bearded dragon is probably gonna have to go to the vet at some point. On top of her initially going to the vet, within the first couple months of me having her due to parasites, she had to go to a vet a lot after that, and I spent hundreds, probably over $1,000 on medical bills for her because of issues that she had. And when I needed a vet, I didn't know that not all vets saw reptiles, so I had to search for a special vet to see her, and that vet wasn't very great. So not only do not all vets see bearded dragons, but once you find a vet, you have to make sure that that vet actually specializes in lizards, because sometimes just because they see reptiles doesn't mean that they exactly are very good at it. Didn't know that. With dogs, you take them to the vet and they see the vet and that's it. They know how to take care of dogs. Not really as easy as that with bearded dragons. Female bearded dragons can become gravid a lot earlier than all the guides say. So normally you would expect a female bearded dragon to become gravid with infertile eggs at about a year to a year and a half. Zaz here became gravid at about 9 months. I didn't know that that was possible. So if I had known that going into it, it would have saved 2 different vets. It would have saved so many pointless vet visits with vets that didn't know what was going on with her, and it would have prompted me to make her a dig box even though she was only 9 months old. Would have been really nice and saved a lot of stress for me and her if I had known that. So just because your female bearded dragon isn't of age to be gravid, if she is displaying all of the signs of being gravid, like weight gain and not wanting to eat and digging, constantly glass surfing, things like that, make sure that you go ahead and take that precaution to get her a dig box just in case that is the issue, or it could lead to egg binding and surgery like what happened with Zaz. Sand is not okay. A lot of pet stores tell you that calcium sand is okay. When I got Zaz, I did get her from a local pet store that now is under new management, so those people don't run the store and they don't work there anymore. But when I got her, I was told that when a bearded dragon became an adult, calcium sand was fine. If that is what you wanted, it was better for them and they would enjoy it more. So when I got Zaz, I was super excited because I had this whole idea of a sanded tank that I was going to get her set up in, and I thought it was going to be the coolest thing to see a bearded dragon running around on sand and digging and doing all these cool sand things, only to find out that that's not okay, and it's definitely very much frowned upon in bearded dragon keeping because it can be very dangerous. If you go to Petco and PetSmart, they sell the brightly colored calcium sands for bearded dragons. They have pictures of bearded dragons on them, and they sell that to you because they're trying to make money, but it's not really good for your bearded dragon. And the last one, and one of the big points of this video, is it's okay to make mistakes. One of the reasons that bearded dragons are known as such a wonderful beginner reptile is because they are a very hardy animal. That is unfortunately why you see a lot of very neglected bearded dragons on places like Craigslist that are still alive, and they still are very much capable of being brought back to health from those sadder states. If you make mistakes, that is okay. That's part of getting into the reptile hobby. I don't think that there's a single person who keeps reptiles that can say that they've done everything right 100% of the time. It's just not human. But it is very important to do your research before you get an animal so that you can avoid a lot of those mistakes. A lot of my mistakes that I have listed could have been avoided if I had known to do the proper research beforehand, and yeah, like I said at the beginning, that's why I put these videos out, in hopes to help some of you guys out who are thinking about getting into the reptile hobby or who have recently gotten into the reptile hobby. But I was very stressed when I first got Zaz because I felt like I was always doing something wrong. Don't beat yourself up if you make a mistake. Your bearded dragon is going to forgive you. The big point is to just know that you made a mistake and do better. Just fix it and carry on. That is about it for this. I think I hit most of the things that I wish I knew / mistakes that I made that could have been alleviated. Hey guys, really quick, it is future editing me. I forgot to put this in the video. It would be super cool if you guys could send me pictures of your tanks to Instagram or Twitter or email, because me and my husband would love to, as per requested by you guys, react to your tanks. So please send me those if you can. And yeah, back to the video. As I said at the beginning of this video is sponsored by the DubiaDude. The DubiaDude.com is such an awesome place to get dubia roaches. So wish that I knew about dubia roaches when I first got her. Dubia roaches are super healthy. They are going to be a lot more filling than crickets, and they're going to be easier for you to handle than crickets. They are super clean. They don't stink up the room that they're in like crickets do. They don't chirp. They don't hop out when you open the container. They cannot climb smooth surfaces, so you don't have to worry about them escaping. The DubiaDude's website is super easy to navigate, just a few clicks, and you have dubia roaches coming directly to your house, which in these times is so much safer than having to run into the pet store and buy crickets. And the DubiaDude also offers subscription services, so you can set up dubia roaches to be automatically delivered to your house, which takes so much stress off and makes ordering dubia roaches even easier for you. Make sure to use my code Elle at thedubiadude.com to save 10% off of your entire order. Thank you so much to the DubiaDude for sponsoring this video. As always, guys, if you have not already, please feel free to follow me on my other socials and like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every single time I put out a new video, which is every Sunday. This week's Instagram shout out goes to I1 again, so sorry for my terrible pronunciation. I don't know how to pronounce this. Thank you so much to Ian for following me on Instagram and going through and liking a bunch of stuff. You are the bee's knees. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye. Bye, the DubiaDude, so make sure to stay until the end of this video to find out this. I'm sweating. Okay. Purchased a hood, and I originally purchased, actually, this is what I'm getting. Research beforehand instead of just, and lighting was a huge one. After they poop, they will run through it. It is so hot in this house, super hot in this house.